Hello, today I'm going to be talking to you about rehearsal techniques and particularly how you would answer a question on rehearsal techniques in your C3A DNA set text exam. So first of all, what is a rehearsal technique? Well, a rehearsal technique is a strategy which actors or directors use to develop the performance or their character in rehearsal. So it might be that the actor needs to improve their characterization, so their use of vocal and physical acting skills to perform the role. It could be that two actors need to develop the relationship between the characters on stage and to show that more clearly. And these strategies will be used in the rehearsal room in order to support actors to give their best performance. So, first things first, I'm going to share with you 10 rehearsal techniques which I teach to students in order for them to answer this question appropriately. So I've just headed to the website quizlet.com, where if you search Miss Drury Drama, you'll be able to access my resources. And then when you go down to rehearsal techniques, you can see there that there's 10 flashcards which I have made for us to revise from. So the first rehearsal technique is hot seating. Hot seating is where an actor is interviewed in character to investigate their backstory. It might be that you pause a scene and you begin to interview the actor in role so that they can start to think of their backstory and their history and the reasons behind their behaviour and the reasons behind the things they do in the scene. Next is character profiling. So in character profiling, an actor will be expected to create a document detailing information about their age, their occupations, their interests. It could be their backstory as well. And all of the kind of background information which might not make it into the final play, but is really important in helping the actor understand how to play the role. Next, you've got facts and questions. This was a technique invented by Stanislavski in naturalism, where he wants to enable actors to understand the given circumstances of a play. So page by page, they would go through their script, they would analyse what do they know for sure to be true on that page, what are the facts, and then what questions do they have and what questions would they like to explore through their acting. Next is archetypes or stock characters. So an archetype or a stock character is a stereotypical character which comes up again and again and again in the history of drama and the history of stories. The actor would choose an archetype or a stock character which is most like their character. This would help them to discover the significant traits of their character. It might help them to develop their personality and how they're going to show that through their physical and vocal acting skills. Next is roll on the wall. Quite a simple one, but very effective. Here you use a gingerbread template and you investigate the difference between the character's inner feelings and their outer perceptions. So if you have a character who on the outside acts very tough, is very strong, you could explore what they might be feeling on the inside or what their thoughts might be about a situation, even though their outwards behaviour might be very complex and not presenting as what they're feeling truthfully. Next, you've got zoomorphism. Zoomorphism is often used in commedia performance, where you will be inspired by an animal's characteristics to enhance your characterization, particularly your physical acting skills. Number 7, we've got thought tracking. Thought tracking is where you may pause a scene to allow the inner thoughts of the character to be heard out loud. This is particularly useful if you know, like roll on the wall, that your character has got a lot of things going on behind their outward behaviour. Elements, so invented by Jacques Lecoq with physical theatre. You may choose an element such as fire, earth, water or air, which is most appropriate and most linked to the character. So if your character was one of the elements, which one would they be? How would they move? How would that influence the choices they make? Number 9, emotion memory, another Stanislavskian technique where the actor uses a personal memory to recall a time where they felt in a similar way to that character. As actors, we do this quite a lot. We think about the human behaviour that we have experienced and how we will show this through our acting and through our skill. But emotion memory specifically asks the actor to recall a time where they may empathise with the character or where they may have shown those behaviours. They can then use that to influence their performance and make it more realistic. Finally, improvisation. Improvisation is when we act spontaneously on the spot. We make it up as we go along. Now, if you were to improvise a scene off book, off script, that might really help to explore character relationships. So you might ask the actors to do the scene, but just without the text when they don't know their lines yet. You could ask the actors to improvise a scene in a completely different setting, just so that they have got an understanding of how these actors would behave together, how these characters would feel about each other, and how that would be shown. So if you want to revise these and you're not quite sure about some of those, then you can learn, write, spell or test on Quizlet. And this is accessible to anybody. You can also play games like Match. So on Match, you literally match up the key terms. So improvisation, spontaneous, elements is there. And you can compete together to get the best time in your class. So it's a really effective way for quick and easy drama revision. Next, I'm going to talk to you about how you can apply this knowledge to your C3A exam. So usually on a short mark question, you may be asked a question about rehearsal techniques and what rehearsal techniques you would recommend for an actor playing a particular character. We're going to look at Leah as an example on page 11. So on page 11, Leah is motivated by her need for love and belonging. She is craving Phil's attention and approval. She has very erratic thoughts and her thought track changes from here to here to here very quickly. She's feeling really insecure and she has a real lack of self-confidence in this scene. A key line in this monologue is, I don't care, you know, I don't. We know that Leah clearly does care, but she might be trying not to show that on the outside. So, if we were to choose an appropriate rehearsal technique for the actor playing Leah, what would we choose? Hot seating, character profiling, facts and questions, archetypes, stock characters, role on the wall, zoomorphism, thought tracking, elements, emotion memory, or improvisation. So the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, what is it we want the actor playing Leah to understand? Well, in this scene, she's feeling very insecure and she's trying to show an outward appearance of confidence. So a rehearsal technique which might help us is thought tracking. If we were to choose thought tracking, we could pause Leah's monologue for her to reveal to the audience how she really feels about Phil ignoring her. This might help the actor playing Leah to understand just how lonely Leah is, and she would be able to show this through her performance. We could also use the technique of emotion memory. Emotion memory is where the actor uses a personal memory to recall a time where they felt in a similar way to the character. Now, hopefully, you have not been like Leah and had somebody completely ignore you throughout a conversation, but you could perhaps recall a time where somebody hasn't listened to you and how that made you feel, and use that to influence your performance and to make your acting more realistic. Let's take a look at another example. So I've chosen to focus on Danny on page 15, when the group are finally understanding that somebody has been killed through the group's actions. Danny has a very strong moral code. He cares about doing the right thing. He's anxious, he's ambitious, he wants to be a dentist. He says dentists can't get mixed up in things like this. He feels stressed, he's experiencing peer pressure, and he says the line, I've got a plan, in this scene. If we were choosing an appropriate rehearsal technique for the actor playing Danny in this scene, we may choose to do something like improvisation. Improvisation is when we act spontaneously, we make things up on the spot. So the director may ask the actor playing Danny and the other actors in the group to think of another time when Danny was experiencing peer pressure. They could then act this scene out, making it up on the spot, perhaps trying to drink for the first time or take a cigarette, and they could explore together how Danny would react in that situation. This would help the actor playing Danny in the scene on page 15 so that they would know how to react physically and vocally when the group are putting pressure on him. Another rehearsal technique that the actor playing Danny could use could be archetypes or stock characters. We know that in the archetype structure, we have some characters that are classed as the innocent, characters who don't necessarily know so much about the world and don't want to get caught up in dangerous things. Archetypes are when you choose a stereotype that's most likely to be like your character, and you discover the significant traits about them and how they would move and how they would think. So if we turned Danny into an innocent archetype, That would help the actor playing Danny to make some really strong choices about how they would physically move and how they would speak to portray this very intelligent, very anxious character who has a really strong sense of morality. It might help them to make choices about their posture. Perhaps they would sit with a slumped posture to show that they're feeling very uncomfortable and under pressure by the group. I hope that's been helpful today. Rehearsal techniques are normally short mark questions which enable you to demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of the characters in DNA and also how actors would approach performing that role in specific scenes.